Welcome, friends of the show. We are back with another episode of the Ferris Wheel Serious Rock Talk podcast.
Ooh, all right.
A big thanks for your emails, suggestions, and your support on our social media platforms. Continue to email us at seriousrocktalk@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Listen to a new show every week. Just tune in each Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. New York City time on Cap City Beats, located at www.capcitybeats.ca. Okay, buckle up for some serious rock talk. And we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back.
It's wonderful to be back.
One of us will be back. So I'm back. Ferris Kennedy here, a.k.a. Kennedy. I kind of go like Madonna with one name.
Yeah, you're that famous.
That's it. I'm that famous. And to the right of me, a man who is no stranger to hanging out with Morton Downey Jr. back in the
I don't know
day.
how you know him, but that's true. He's long, forgotten, but great. He talked dirty and Clark.
He was a heavy smoker, was he not?
Oh, he spit up camels during his meal. I mean,
And a man who actually was intrigued and inspired by Phil Donahue.
For the look.
And
Stephen Wheeler.
that's another one you're surprised that I know it.
Yeah,
and
you
I
know,
go by
the-
Wheeler because I can't remember my first name.
the great Donahue quote is, "This is Phil Donahue, and our next program, Men Who Live with Women." We'll be right back.
So what do we got today, Wheels?
The most bizarre of all subject.
Yes.
New wave music.
Oh, so that in Quebec they call it as Nouvelle Vague.
Exactly.
And I call it in France too, but it has to do with a film movement with Jean-Luc Godard and other happy people.
Which actually is the reason why it's called new wave. It's inspired by La Nouvelle Vague in France.
That's what John Delancey would say. Oh, mon capitaine, mon capitaine. You know John Delancey?
Oh, yeah, cute.
Yeah, you know John Delancey too?
No,
the
but I know
actor?
Walt Whitman from
Is
what
he
that's
actually
talking
French,
about.
by the way?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Well,
never mind.
Delancey's a huge French, no.
Would it be Irish too? Sean Delancey.
John.
No, I know that 99.
Yeah, but listen, 86.
Hello, Chief. Max here.
Carry on my wayward
So,
son.
New wave is a pop-oriented style that emerged in the late 70s, early 80s, and it's basically a catch-all term for the music that came after punk rock. It was kind of punk itself, but if you look at it now with our rear view approach, frankly, you have to consider it post-punk more than
Well,
anything
punks
else.
never dressed that well.
No, exactly.
They didn't.
What they do have in common with those guys is that they have a do-it-yourself philosophy. They were mostly influenced by the lighter strains of the 60s pop. They didn't really have the general abrasive political bents of punk rock. And they weren't considered as serious, let's put it that way, as what came to be known as corporate rock. So basically it's the alternative of the 70s and 80s.
That's true.
The other thing they're really known for is the electronic sound that they really pushed forward. And they also have a very distinctive visual style because these guys came along when music videos.
Yeah, MTV guys. Yeah,
Exactly.
sure.
And so basically, if we look at them in a modern way, they're really pop rock, but they are also the granddaddy of power pop, synth pop, ska revival, soft strains of punk rock. There's so many ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
Which makes this this show basically we're going to be all over the map. The one thing we can say about most new wave artists though is that they're mostly one-hit wonders.
Well, you know, that's...
well,
except for a few.
But that's really interesting. Maybe,
That's a good idea, though. It's a good point. Excuse me.
It's interesting. I think this is sadly true.
Well, no. Men
A
Without
lot of them-
Hats,
a lot of them-
B-52s,
And without what?
scrotums.
Okay.
That's what you call them.
Okay.
Men Without Hats, B-52s, and Depeche Mode are the top three that come to my mind.
Elvis Costello, I guess.
Well, but the thing is, they had a few albums where they were new wave, and then they
I know. Then they
basically
they
The
escaped.
Buggles.
exactly. So the term itself is, according to the new Rolling Stone Encyclopedia of Rock, virtually meaningless. It was originally used as a catch-all, and In the 1985 discography, Who's New Wave in Music listed artists basically in 130 categories. And it's also very hard to pinpoint in terms of origins. But most people will say it's British. So another British invasion.
That's interesting. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But, we know it mostly due to New York artists.
That's true.
So we have the Velvet Underground and New York Dolls in the late 70s that are completely basically making rock the most bizarre thing, because at that point rock is really spreading in every possible direction.
Well, maybe not the Velvets then, but they inspired, I think, the Dolls.
Dolls, yeah. But because basically the Velvet Underground showed everybody that rock could be at times serious and completely ridiculous,
And that you didn't need a great voice.
and
like
you didn't
could
need
just,
these,
Yeah.
Yeah, but rock was cool.
No,
It still
exactly.
is.
And
Well, yeah.
and so basically, New Wave is also another name that we associate with New York. It's CBGBs,
Sure.
because no CBGBs, no New Wave in the States, and basically no New Wave in rock history, because the States dominated rock in the 70s and 80s. So CBGBs is basically responsible for groups like Talking Heads, Mink DeVille, Blondie, proto-punk stuff that came out of Ohio, like Devo, basically had to go through CBGBs to be recognized.
Yeah.
More obscure stuff, the Electric Eels, Rocket from the Tombs, Père Ubu, which is...
They're French.
They're French. Well, they're inspired by a French play, at the very least. They had other important bands such as Suicide, Modern Lovers.
Oh, these are great bands, actually. Suicide and Jonathan Richman. Yeah.
Yeah. You have also... the Ramones are kind of
I know.
considered New Wave.
They're kind of an interesting crossover band. They do CBGBs.
But they're mostly punk.
Yeah, but I always thought they're kind of punky. But then Phil Spector produced them. Go figure.
No, exactly. So it's a weird time.
It's a weird time, yeah.
Some people even consider the Runaways to be a New Wave band. So
Lita Ford and Cherry,
Cherry, yeah.
Joan Jett.
Joan Jett.
I don't consider that new wave.
It's Italian girl. Joan
Yeah, I know
Jett.
Joan Jett. She's Italian.
Yeah, she's still around. I'll talk about her, actually, during this podcast.
So this is like the mid to late 70s. So at that point, we're mostly in post-punk.
Yeah.
We're still very rocky at that point. Come the 80s, now it gets to be really electronic, and we get out of the underground music sound.
And everybody looked like a vampire.
That's true, yeah.
Check out the videos. Everyone is pale and they're not happy.
The goth look is in.
Yeah, they're really, really skinny and they're unhappy because they're awake and haven't had blood.
I went to school in college. The goth was huge on a lot of the girls.
Terrifying.
God bless them. They look fantastic.
Oh, good for you.
No, they were great.
Usually.
They were like super pretty.
Well, those are new millennium punks. They're not the 70s punk.
I was there for anyway.
Maybe. Okay, sorry.
I better not comment on that.
Different era.
Often it wasn't flattering.
That's just me.
So when we get to the late 70s, we're not exactly... New Wave is still slightly underground. The sales are starting to pick up. Not that much yet. When we get to late 78, early 79... that's when it gets to be really big, and that's when the sound starts to change and it gets really electronic. That's when we get Blondie, Talking Heads, The Police, The Cars. There's like the most new wave sound at that point is My Sharona, which was everywhere.
By the Knacks.
By the Knacks. Wasn't it the only hit by the Knacks?
They had one other minor one, yeah. That was
no one knows about except for Ian.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, the My Sharona.
I mean, good beat, though.
And it gets out of New York, because at that point, a lot of the bands from Middle America, actually anywhere in America, you have the B-52s that come out. You got REM, which in the early days were new wave.
True.
Some people even see some influence of new wave in the music of Billy Joel and Linda Ronstadt at that point.
That kind of a stretch, but okay.
It's a stretch, but
Wham does not belong on that list, by the way. They have Wham listed as new wave. I don't consider Wham new wave.
they might have in the first album when it was really not popular.
They had a rap song, Wham. Go figure. It's called Wham Rap. It's actually pretty good.
Some people even say that the new wave sound of the late 70s, early 80s is actually the result of African American pioneers such as Stevie Wonder and Parliament Funkadelic, because they introduced a lot of electronic sounds in the early 70s.
That's true. A lot of synth sounds. You're right.
And so one of the things you'll notice as new wave evolves is all these sounds coming from other genres, which rock at that point didn't do. Well, prog rock kind of did, but prog rock was never mainstream as
Never.
much.
Not really.
So one of the things you'll notice if you listen to new wave from the late 70s, early 80s is you'll hear Jamaican music, electronic art music, jazz music, rhythm and blues. You'll hear music of alternative dance clubs from New York and Chicago. It's just a really insane melting pot. And you even have artists like Africa Bambaataa,
Yeah, that's right.
who actually embraced new wave, which is the most bizarre statement you've ever heard. If you ever listened to his later stuff, it's hard to believe
I know.
that new wave was ever that big.
It's true.
And then 81 arrives, and that is the start of MTV, and that's when it gets everywhere in the culture.
Well, yeah, big time. The videos, video kill the radio star.
Which was the first thing played on MTV, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's that for foresight?
New wave. So new wave is what made MTV.
Basically.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had great videos.
Yeah. Well, they did. It was
And
cool.
it
Put a lot of
brought
money into it.
And they brought what the journalists labeled the second British invasion, which was like all these bands from England basically selling out thanks to videos on MTV.
True.
You know why they did that, right? Because it was already the template was already broken. Pink Floyd already came out. The Who, Zeppelin, the Stones, the Beatles. That's already the first British invasion, man. They already came in and set their mark, so they had to try something different.
Exactly.
So they did it on visuals.
Yeah.
I mean, the Beatles have a lot of great videos.
They did or did not?
No, they had something called Great Songs, which is why they're still around. And we mentioned earlier why you've never heard of most of these people, because they're one-hit wonders. Sorry. They just are. But they look great, you know?
So they did one song and they're
Pretty well. I mean, most people in the street can't name you, I don't know, a Susie and the Banshee album. They can't name you, I don't know, 3 Talking Head albums. I mean, sorry, that's just the way it went. You know, or give me 5 Elvis Costello albums. I don't know. So they were, and I probably shouldn't abuse him, because I know he's turned into this cultural figure and I don't know that. But most of them you can't name.
He's called the show numerous times. I don't know if he got my number. He gets upset. Everything is like, you tell Dr. Clark I belong in classic rock. Well, I'll pass the message on, but now we're talking to you about new wave, so I'm hoping you're going to comment too. Oh, thanks for mentioning me. You know?
Well, next time tell him not to call you at 2 a.m. drunk, okay?
On the toilet.
Yeah.
He gets mad. And I think it's because, with Anna Crawl, Canada Connection.
Maybe that's it. He thought we were nice guys because we're
He
Canadian.
he called me 2-3 times. He was upset, and he's like,
Yeah.
I'm classic rock. I'm like,
You're not.
no.
Sorry, you're not Zepp. Zepp is class. No.
You're new wave.
You're
Live with it.
Allison.
You
Oh,
belong
come
with
on.
Rick Ocasek and Ben, what's his name? Benjamin Orr and
yeah.
the Cars.
Cars.
That's your new wave.
My best friend's girlfriend.
That's it.
Yeah.
My best.
Girlfriend.
So we get to the mid 80s at this point, and there are artists of that genre are everywhere, and it gets to the point where it's oversaturated, and you'll see this in the fact that soundtracks actually become really big in the 80s.
Huge.
It started somewhat in the 70s. You have American Graffiti, whose soundtrack was really popular.
But that was a compilation. Yeah,
Those were
you're right.
compilation, and they were an afterthought. In the 80s, it becomes a marketing
Yeah, look
strategy.
at Blondie and what was the American Gigolo one? Try me.
Call me.
Call me. It was huge. The movie made the single.
But you gotta watch the movie 200 Cigarettes. It was a movie done in the early zeros, I want to say, and it was based out of the 80s. And apparently, like Elvis Costello comes to this party. He's in this.
In the movie?
But you gotta watch it. It's probably on Netflix. It is actually a really good movie. It's called 200 Cigarettes. It's based on a New Year's Eve in New York in the 80s.
All right.
Christina Ricci's in it too.
And the movies I recommend if you are interested in finding out about New Wave are 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, and The Breakfast Club, which are basically the Brat Pack trifecta.
Won't you forget about me?
You also have the low-budget hit Valley Girl, but that's more associated with Zappa.
Yeah, that was fun.
Sounds a little dirty, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, everything sounds dirty to you.
With Zappa, it's always dirty.
Probably.
Mother's intervention.
So basically, on these soundtracks, you hear a lot of psychedelic furs, Simple Mind, orchestral maneuvers in the dark, which is extraordinarily obscure now, and Echo and the Bunnymen.
Oh yeah, good band actually. You mentioned a lot of great bands. OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers, and a great band.
How about the Fix? No one mentioned the Fix.
Oh yeah, the Fix.
So, but of course, with everything that becomes overly saturated, it starts blowing up. And by 1988, 89, modern rock starts dominating the charters again. Yeah. Not for long, because grunge is just around the corner.
That's right.
But there's also the fact New Wave had the same problem as disco, which is it got into a lot of dancing club.
Yeah, it's dance music.
It was dance music, and it became, unfortunately, the victim of a lot of homophobic backlash.
Yeah, it did.
And so it disappeared kind of in the same way disco did, in some ways.
I know. That was mean, I always thought. Remember they burning albums? I hate, even if I don't like the music, you don't break and burn albums.
No, exactly.
I thought that was a horrible thing at that
disco
baseball
sucks,
stadium.
Yeah.
What a horrible thing to do.
In Chicago, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I remember it was a halftime thing. What a dumb thing to do.
I would have taken those vinyls.
You know what they're worth now?
Yeah.
So
you hear any?
I do.
Hear something.
Welcome to Clark Comments. Shut up and buckle up as the good doctor kicks out the jams and offers a selection of questionable, disturbed opinions that are somehow related to popular music.
You know, a lot of rockers try to appear weird. Tough guys in leather. We mentioned Joan Jett earlier, like pounds of makeup or elegantly wasted, like, I don't know, Keith Richards or something. They're such poseurs, you know, whatever. So when you encounter the true weirdness in rock, especially from a place that seems so wholesome, it really puts the fake guys into perspective. Now here's the story that illustrates that. In the summer of 1968, a year before Charles Manson orchestrated 7 murders in Los Angeles, he insinuated himself into a strange relationship with an unlikely source. The Beach Boys, right? These West Coast sunny guys, surfing the USA guys. Manson met the band's drummer, Dennis Wilson, after Wilson picked up and drove home 2 female hitchhikers who happened to be living in Manson's cult, known as The Family. Not long afterward, Wilson returned home at night to find the lights on and a school bus parked outside. He watched a small man walk toward him. Wilson asked if the intruder intended to hurt him. "Do I look like I'm going to?" responded Charles Manson, dropping to his knees to kiss Wilson's feet. Like, you know, it gets, even that would set you off. However, this is the late 60s. Diane Lake, rather a member of the family who wasn't involved in the murders, described in her memoir Manson's ability to captivate Wilson. She wrote, "Dennis and Charlie hit it off right away, which is not surprising given Charlie's skills at ingratiating himself with strangers. Dennis, in no rush to leave, hung out for a while, smoked some pot with Charlie, and listened a bit to Charlie's songs," unquote. According to Diane Lake, Wilson provided for the group and even drove them all to see a doctor after a round of gonorrhea hit. This is charming place and people, right?
Jesus.
Boy, at the time, Manson was angling for a record contract, and Wilson took to calling him the Wizard, introduced him to friends and industry executives with varying results. Neil Young seemed to think Manson was an improvisational genius, and talent scout Craig Jacobson wanted to feature Manson and his family in a documentary. Boy, talk about having to backpedal on that stuff. Manson particularly tried to impress Wilson's close friend, Terry Melcher, son of actress Doris Day, and an influential producer at Columbia Records. He produced The Byrds, for instance. But Melcher was wary of Manson, declining to invite him to his home at 10050 Cicelo Drive in Benedict Canyon. Keep that address in mind. When Dennis took Manson, an aspiring musician, to record at the Beach Boys studio, Manson had a disagreement with Wilson's producers and then ended up pulling a knife on them. Somebody flew into this guy, pulling a knife. The other Beach Boys were creeped out by Manson. Singer Mike Love later wrote about how he went over to Dennis's house for dinner, only to find everyone there naked. The after-dinner LSD-fueled orgy was a little too much to take, so he excused himself to take a shower, only to have Manson barge in on him and scold him for trying to leave. Imagine taking a shower, and there's a knock on the door, and it's Charles Manson?
Good Lord.
Oh, man. Please, God. Okay, the Manson-Wilson relationship came to an abrupt end as the summer of '68 came to a close. By the end of the summer, after having blown through an estimated $100,000 in 1968 dollars, which I translated to 800,000 US in today's dollars, to pay for the family's food, medical bills, and damages to his property, Wilson decided enough was enough. Avoiding confrontation, I don't blame him for that one, he moved out of this rented home and let the lease expire. So the landlord had to formally evict the Manson family. Wilson got back at Manson by taking one of his songs, Cease to Exist, and recrafting it as Never Learn Not to Love. And it was on the Beach Boys album 2020. And, it's actually not a bad song. So the friendship deteriorated, obviously, with the men, although they still talked a few times. By the summer of '69, after his long-awaited audition for Melcher had failed to produce the record deal, Manson decided it was time to ignite Helter Skelter. The race wars, he warned, would wipe out civilization. On August 8th, Manson ordered his followers to kill everyone at 10050 Cicelo Drive. Melcher had moved out months earlier with his girlfriend, what's her name? Her father was a ventriloquist. It'll come to me.
Oh, Bergen. Candice Bergen?
Candice Bergen. Thank you.
Murphy Brown.
Yeah, Murphy Brown.
Right. And they apparently didn't even know Sharon Tate was there. But Sharon Tate, wife of Roman Polanski, and a few friends were at the house, and they became the unfortunate victims. The next night, the family struck again with the murder of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca. Strange story, and stranger because it involves the Beach Boys. The Doors or Alice Cooper, you could probably put some shading on it, but the Beach Boys, the Manson murders are often regarded as a kind of bookend to the All You Need Is Love, Flower Power 1960s, with the Rolling Stones at Altamont happening just a few months later. I guess that was December '69. That finally drove the nail into the hippie coffin forever. But I don't think of it that way. A lot of good vibes came into the '70s. However, the Manson Beach Boys story is one of those weird tales that only makes sense if you frame it within the tenor of the times. And then it comes together right now. And this has been Dr. Clark with Clark Comments.
Well, that's fantastic.
Bizarre, isn't it?
It is.
The Manson family and Dennis. And they get 2020, look at the credits. When you see that song, Never Learn How Not to Love, with a double negative on it, that's Charles Manson.
I can't believe this man wrote songs and he was so crazy.
I
just
know.
don't get it.
Guns N' Roses recorded one. Was like, he wasn't that bad. You can get a Charles Manson album now, and he's okay.
Does he sing or just?
He sings. He's not a bad singer. It is. It's disturbing. It really is.
Well, I guess because we're so perceived to see
know.
that one story, right? Where I guess that movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, there you go.
But you said Rick Dalton or Luke Dalton. That's not a real character.
Rick Dalton was based on. Oh, let me get this straight. So who's playing the?
DiCaprio's playing the Rick Dalton.
The Rick. I don't know. I know. Yeah, it is.
I think it's a composite of many people.
That's supposed to be. One of them was a stuntman.
Yeah, Brad Pitt played the stuntman.
Okay, the stuntman was based on a real guy. I forget his name, but he directed Cannonball Run.
Oh, that was such a good movie with Dom DeLuise.
Yeah, he directed that. I think Hal Needham is his name, and that's why they wanted Burt Reynolds to play in that movie instead of what was his name, Bruce Dern, but Burt Reynolds was ill or died, and that was that. But yeah, that was based loosely on,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow, because it was so, think of the whole thing of that.
Of course, there's a happy ending. Imagine that.
There's a happy ending in that one, but in real life, there is no happy ending.
No happy ending. It was awful.
Tarantino is now known for happy endings in things that just don't work,
Yeah,
like
like
the massacre of the High Nazi Command and
Or what's the other
Inglourious
one?
Bastard.
The Django and
Django Chain, yeah.
shooting all the slave owners. Didn't really work out that way. in life.
No.
No.
So why are we talking about New Wave?
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Because basically what happened, like a lot of these styles from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it became cool again. So there was, in the early O's, bands like Franz Ferdinand brought what was known as the new wave.
How much newer can you get?
Exactly.
Sounds like something from Spinal Tap.
It's kind of like that, actually. It's like
The new originals.
It's basically in the early O's, mid 2000, a lot of raves were happening, and indie rock and electro house actually basically were going through the vaults of all these amazing old bands, and at that point, we had a lot of bands like B-52s, the Go-Go's, Elvis Costello, which even Flock of Seagulls and Duran Duran had like a second.
Go-Go's are
shuffling.
bringing
Duran Duran used to play like audiences in nightclubs, and then suddenly they're doing stadiums again.
Go-Go's are on the list to be inducted.
Oh, come on. And
Rock and roll.
you mentioned in the podcast
Yeah,
when Brian Adams is in. Like, okay, the guess who? And the Go-Go's?
Judas Priest is still fighting to get a vote.
But the Go-Go's got in because they're a girl band. No, I didn't say that.
Okay, you didn't.
So basically, New Wave is still with us in a certain way. So we have a little test for you if you want to know if something is New Wave.
Yeah.
So when you're listening to something, these are 5 characteristics that will allow you to guess pretty much at a party where there's trivia if it's New Wave. So the first one is reduced blues influence. So if you're listening to 70s stuff, blues was really big.
True.
So if you're listening to something and all of a sudden the bluesy side of it is dripping out and electronics coming in, then there's a good chance it's New Wave. The other thing is punk energy. So in the early days of New Wave, it is like light punk. So
Yeah, it is.
the Talking Heads are not the Sex Pistols, but they have more or less
They're hyped up.
They're hyped up.
Yeah.
No, I could listen to Talking Heads. Sex Pistols, that's all.
I want them driving anyway.
The other thing is rhythmic experimentation. So new wave artists tend to go in really weird rhythm sections.
Yeah, they
their
double
music.
time stuff.
Devo in particular, Talking Heads again.
Yeah.
Whip it good.
The Police, Adam and the Ants, which is not a band you want to listen to while you're on a picnic. Bow Wow Wow and Duran Duran all have really strange rhythm sections.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
I like Duran Duran though.
And one of the reasons
Good band.
is these guys were addicted to music that was coming out of Jamaica, Cuba, and West African countries at that point. So that would
Sure.
explain why their concept of musical time is slightly different from most of their contemporaries.
I gotta say, it was refreshing too. I mean, after the '70s and
Yeah.
stuff, you know, the 4/4 beat stuff. It was okay to do double time, hyped up stuff. Plus, you could dance to new wave.
Exactly.
You can't really dance to Steve Miller, so
So
not really.
Sonny Charles did.
Yeah, he tried. Ooh, jetliner, don't carry me too far away.
So speaking of dancing on the rhythm, one of the other things that you'll always know is new wave, if you're listening to it, is the increasing use of keyboard, especially electronic keyboards.
That's true.
So if you're listening to the Cars, the Police, Depeche Mode, Gary Newman, and the Human League, there's a good chance you're going to listen to a lot of electronic
Well,
keyboard.
that's all what the hell Gary Newman was, wasn't it? In
Exactly.
Cars, ding, 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 ding. That one hit, but it was a great song.
And if you're able, not so much to whistle to it, but you'll tap your feet to it, it's the mainstream appeal. So what was really new wave in the late 70s, early 80s, it's that everybody and their grandma could get into it, especially with the MTV music videos, the Buggles, all these groups.
Yeah.
There wasn't really anything that you could object to when you saw their videos.
No, they weren't singing about "For Dead in Ohio." Like they weren't, you know what I mean? They
Exactly.
weren't. It was just, this lighthearted stuff.
Hey, that's bizarre. I'm hearing Kennedy like.
That's his stomach grumbling.
Oh, okay.
He hasn't had
Oh.
food in a while.
Well, it's time though.
Okay,
It's
okay.
time.
It's time for Kennedy's Corner again.
Okay.
Welcome to Kennedy's Corner. Following the advice of a behavioral psychologist, Ferris Kennedy has created a forum to express his nightmares, his terror, and his love of rock music. Dr. Clark and medicated Wheeler help with his therapy by answering questions, or just acting like they're interested.
This time I did it a little bit differently, talking with you guys in marketing. They were saying, well, how do you feel if I give you a topic today of who, what, or which does Kennedy prefer? So this time around,
Who, what,
you
or
guys-
which? Okay.
So which one of you fine gentlemen wants to be
He
tortured
does.
first?
He does.
Stephen Wheeler.
Yes, sir.
Who, what, which, or whatever does Kennedy prefer? So I'm going to list two names, and you tell me, I'll just keep going.
Sure.
Kim Thale of Soundgarden or Mike McCready of Pearl Jam?
Mike McGreedy.
Oh, okay, you know me well. Brian Johnson or Bon Scott?
Oh, this is watch it. You'll lose your friendship if you blow this one.
Bon Scott?
No,
No.
friendship's over.
Sorry, bro. After 30 some odd years, it was nice knowing you.
It happens.
Chad Smith or Tommy Lee?
Tommy Lee.
Do I prefer the Foo Fighters or Nirvana?
Oh, man, that's a hard one.
No,
You listen to Foo Fighters
this
more
guy.
than you do Nirvana.
True.
So I'll go with Foo Fighters.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. Because there is a girl element in both.
Well,
so it doesn't
exactly,
matter.
yeah.
Do I prefer Steve Harris of Iron Maiden or Duff McKagan of GNR?
Duff McKagan?
Yes. Do I prefer Andy Kim or Elton John?
Oh,
God, I hope
Elton John, as a performer, that I know.
Which one do I prefer?
Rock
C-
me gently, rock me slowly.
I'll go with Elton John.
Yeah, you're smart.
But I know you'll go and
I
have
love
a beer
Andy
with
Kim.
Andy
Yeah,
Kim.
I love Andy Kim, but there's more Elton John than I know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do I prefer Jimmy Page or Keith Richards?
Oh, that's interesting.
I think you're more in a Jimmy Page phase, aren't you? Okay.
Yes, that's correct. Do I like the album 10 or the album Verses of Pearl Jam?
10? No.
Verses. Yeah, I had this conversation with my buddy Kyle. He agrees.
The date's off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you believe I like Slippery When Wet or New Jersey by Bon Jovi?
Slippery when wet.
You're saving yourself there. Do I prefer Abbey Road or Rubber Soul?
Abbey Road.
Yes. Which one I like better? Do I like Crime of the Century or Breakfast in America?
Breakfast in America.
You remember that, eh? Do I like Led Zeppelin 2 or Led Zeppelin 4?
You told me the other day.
I
I
know.
want to say 4.
Yeah, I know, too.
2. No.
So you were listening closely.
One of them he considers shite, and the other one he likes, and I can never remember which one's
Oh, I
which.
love both of them. I just this 2 is just more heavy. I love it.
Oh no, it's 3 you consider shite.
Oh, I don't like 3 at all.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Do I prefer Theater of Pain or Dr. Feelgood?
Dr. Feelgood.
Yes. And the
In
last
every every sense of that word.
and do I prefer the album Beggar's Banquet or Let It Bleed?
Oh, I hope you. I got an idea what you should prefer.
Let it bleed.
Good for you.
That's the one, yes. Dr. Clark.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
How may I help you?
Do I like Kenny Aronoff or David Grohl?
Oh, a nice try. Okay, I'm going to go with Dave Grohl.
It's kind of a trick question.
Nine,
but
it's a little tricky.
A little tricky, yes.
A little tricky.
Here's one that you might get right. Do I like Eddie Van Halen or do I like Slash more?
You know, I think you like Slash more.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Do I prefer Aerosmith or Guns N' Roses?
I'm going to say Guns N' Roses.
Oh, he's 3 for 3, Wheels. What's going on
Not
here?
going on.
Do I like Steve Tyler or sorry, wrong one. Where am I reading here? Yeah. Do I like Steve Tyler or Steve Perry?
You like them both. Who do you like more? I'm going to say, pound for pound, Steve Tyler.
Yeah,
Yeah, pound for pound. You like Perry too.
I do.
He has a good voice.
But the thing is, Tyler is he's Italian, Perry is Portuguese. Do I like Kurt Cobain or do I like Bryan Adams more?
I would say Bryan Adams, pound for pound again.
Do I? And this one here is you're gonna have a hard time. Do I like Vince Neil more or do I like David Lee Roth?
Oh, wow, this could be a trick question. I'm gonna go out, folks. I could blow this one. I'm gonna go with Roth.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Now is a tough one. Do I like Joe Perry or do I like Steve Stevens? Because he knows I speak highly of these guys.
You prefer Joe Pesci.
I'm gonna go with. This is really a trick one. I'm gonna go with Steve Stevens.
I like Joe.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Just because. For albums, Ian, do I prefer Appetite for Destruction or Lies by GNR? Which one of those two do I like better?
Appetite.
No, I like Lies.
You fool.
Why?
You
The
fool.
fool? Well, I don't know. That's a,
Okay.
do I prefer Reckless or Waking Up the Neighbors by Bryan Adams?
Okay. Well, these are two. That's a tough one. I'm going with Reckless.
Yeah, okay, it's
Okay.
safe. I could have gone either way because they're both
that's
solid.
pretty close.
Now here's a trick one. Do I like the first album of Van Halen, which is Van Halen self-titled,
Yeah.
or 1984?
I'm gonna go with 1984.
Yeah, no.
No,
I like the first
Come
one.
on, class it
do.
up.
Here's one that's going to be hard. Do I like the Foo Fighters self-titled album, or do I like Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace?
You like Echo, but you mentioned it before.
Yes, I do. Do I prefer Back in Black, or do I prefer Highway to Hell?
Back in Black.
Oh, this guy is getting
Yeah,
pretty
I
good.
listen.
Houses of the Holy or Physical Graffiti? Which one I like better?
How's it the whole physical graffiti? I think you like physical graffiti.
Can't stand Physical Graffiti.
You fool.
I don't like that album too much. I just like Kashmir, that's about it. I like How's the Holy better.
Okay.
And final one for you, sir. Do I like the Joshua Tree or Octung Baby?
I know you like the Joshua Tree.
Yeah, Octung.
You mentioned it. You see your line now.
It's hard because those two are good albums, but I could go either way. But today I'm feeling more Octung.
Thank you. Very
So,
interesting.
That's pretty good. You guys know me quite well. Wheels, I know I like to poke at you there. But no, yeah.
Well, the thing is, I've known you for so long that I've actually seen you evolve in your musical tastes.
It's
And
just-
physically too, and mentally. A bit.
I had to make it challenging because everyone, like when I said Mike McCready or Kim Thile, either one I like, but it's hard to.
Yeah.
This is who you talk more about. That's what I went by.
Well, and the other thing is, it's your musical knowledge and taste that's so freakishly vast that it's so hard to pinpoint where you're actually, like, where you would prefer something. Oh, we know what you hate.
Yeah.
I could have done
easier.
that. What do I hate more? That would have been.
That would have been
No, again, that'd
the
be
same
tough,
thing
'cause
though.
you're such a passionate guy. Like,
Yeah.
who would you shoot or who would you run over with your car? And we would go with, okay, he likes this car.
Dude, yeah, I love my car. And I don't like to shoot things, so whatever. You know, it's all good. Yeah, I know it's tough because we don't know where to go. But
Exactly.
No, it's good. It's entertaining. Thank you.
well, let's try to change it up a bit.
Very good.
So I want to end our little trip through New Wave
All right.
with a little, because we talked about the fact that it died of implosion to a certain degree.
True.
But there are certain moments, like when you talked about disco, Dr. Clark.
Yeah.
That stadium burning
Yeah.
was pretty much like the moment where disco started falling off the cliff.
Yeah, it really did. I think the disco duck finally killed it. Yeah.
Well, that was Rick Dees.
Yeah, that was sad.
And there is more or less something that is similar with New Wave. But New Wave was on the coma, don't resuscitate bed for a longer time. So the Memorial Weekend of 1983, there was something called the US Festival. So
Oh, yeah, sure.
so the US Festival is known by very few people outside of metal fans, new wave fans, Simpson fans, and Apple computer fans.
I know. It was
Because what you have to know is 1983, the US Festival was organized by Steve Wozniak, which
Yeah.
was the other creator of Apple computers.
he has a few dollars, yeah.
Yeah.
You think he's okay?
I think he can afford
Well,
bread.
he's not as rich as we think.
Oh, he can afford bread and
He
cheese.
can afford, but he's not like Bill Gates' money.
Maybe no.
But he's actually he's an extraordinarily creative guy, and he had a very vast knowledge and spectrum of taste. And he wanted to create basically the Woodstock of the 80s. It didn't really work out that way.
Well, not with new wave bands. You crazy? Sorry.
No, but the thing is, it was actually very smart of him. What he wanted to do was basically do a 3-day festival in which every day would have a different musical genre. The problem was he did radio-friendly new wave more or less on the first day. This was followed the next day by the metal revolution.
Yeah.
So you have bands like Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, Dio, and Ozzy Osbourne coming in.
That's not new wave.
No, for Metal Day.
Oh, Metal Day. I would have gone there.
And they just the vibe of the festival just completely changed at that point, and it just destroyed new wave. It seems weaker compared to Metal Day and Rock Day, because
it's
Rock
right.
Day had U2, Clash, Van Halen, and David Bowie.
Yeah, the new wave was
Hey,
I always
good day.
well, I always thought of it as bar band stuff. You don't want to hear the Talking Heads at Wembley. Like it doesn't. What?
Sex
No.
Pistols at Wembley.
Yes, but these are bar band stuff. So against Ozzy Osbourne, yeah, he's a stadium guy, stadium rock. Your buddy Brian Adams, stadium rock.
Yeah.
It's hard to get. I don't know. Even Blondie would have trouble at Wembley. It doesn't work out that way.
So Wembley is more for stadium bands. you feel?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right.
Do you think Michael Bublé could do Wembley?
Listen, he's a mystery to me at any size. I don't really get my. That's another show. I
He
guess.
sells out.
I know. Who knows? He's
My mother
got.
loves this guy. She thinks he's great.
It's inexplicable to me. Why wouldn't I just get the Sinatra album? He's covered. Like,
Would
anyway,
would Sinatra in his prime could have done Wembley?
he did something bigger. Frank Sinatra did a stadium in Brazil. At that time, it was the biggest crowd assembled for a singer in history, bigger than Woodstock. Check it out. That's Frank Sinatra.
Sinatra was
And that's not an English speaking country. Yeah. So yeah, he was God for a while there. But no, I just think anyway, we'll do a show something. No, we can't do blues. It's not rock. But if you why don't you write in, folks, and try to explain to me the magic of Michael Bublé. I just can't get it.
seriousrocktalk@gmail.com. Let us
please.
know.
So basically, what happened was the vibe on Metal Day and Rock Day
Yeah.
just destroyed new wave, and it created new fans actually of metal and of rock. Scorpions actually had
Oh my God.
a hit there. U2, which wasn't really big at that point. Van Halen, they were big, but they weren't as big.
Yeah,
They
U2
weren't-
was classified as new wave when they started.
They
Exactly,
were.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that weekend really started something where all these big rock bands, this hard sound would become much bigger. Actually, somebody said it's just bizarre to have the tea drinking crowd right next to the people who put iced tea in their Jack Daniel bottles.
Yeah, that's well put, eh? That's
so-
really well. That's what happened. What a dopey idea.
But the other reason why basically the US Festival was slightly forgotten was lost 20 million 83
Really, yeah.
money out of that.
That's a lot of Apple II computers.
That's a lot of Apple II computers. But the US Festival is now considered the most guitar-powered festival of the last 40 years. And so it just goes to show sometimes a musical style, a way of being, a fashion. All it takes is a little moment in history, and everything changes.
Yeah, really good point. That's really interesting, man. Good job.
I found here something, Wheels, because you asked me to kind of do some research for you, and I did. I came up with, this is a website you're going to like, digitaldreamdoor.com.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, God.
So they came up with a criteria of these songs were chosen for their musical quality, originality, and popularity in the new wave era of approximately 78 to 87. And their background is new wave evolved from punk in the late 70s, being less antisocial and more radio and MTV friendly, hitting its high in 83 and faded around 87. It can be best described as mixing the energy of punk with a bit of glam, pop, art rock, and dance, and relied heavily on synthesizers. And it says, note, these songs are not necessarily the artist's all-time greatest, but their best of the new wave sound. So I'll just fire off a few here. Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams.
Yeah.
Simple Minds, Don't You Forget About Me. Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Sure.
Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Relax, don't do it.
Frankie says relax.
One Way or Another, Blondie, Burning Down the House. Oh, I now remember that. Burning Down, yeah, Talking Heads, great. Tainted Love, Down Under, I Ran So Far Away, Human League, Don't You Want Me. Your buddy Rick Ocasek, you might think.
I don't know, my best friend's girlfriend.
Well, that's a song you might think. You
Last name
might
of this
think I'm crazy. No, yeah.
Mercifully, I don't know it.
Modern English, never heard of them, but hey, they had a song called I Melt With You. Aha, Take On Me, obviously Duran Duran, Hungry Like the Wolf, Whip It,
Would have been good.
Blue Monday, New Order, Don't Stand So Close to Me, The Police. That was actually a COVID-19 song.
True, it was.
Yeah, Shout, again. The Pretenders with Brass in Pocket. Yeah. Oh, The Vapors, I love the song, Turning Japanese.
Oh, wow.
I really think so.
Hold Me Now. Thompson Twins, really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was a big hit.
Mid-80s, yeah.
B-52's Rock Lobster, Heart of Glass. What else
These
you
are all
got?
interesting because they were all hits.
Yeah, they're all hits, and whatever.
And they're fun.
That's fun.
They're all lighter songs too. I mean, they're not social commentary. It's just usually boy-girl songs.
And then they had here a list of albums. They had Wham! Make It Big Again. I'm not convinced that they're new wave.
Neither am I.
Culture Club, Color by Numbers. Yes, Boy George was new wave.
Yeah, he was.
In Excess, Listen Like Thieves.
I guess so. They're almost more rocky. I never thought of them as new wave.
I thought when they started off, I guess they were, but then they kind of became modern.
Yeah.
Your good old buddy here, Elvis Costello, and the Attractions with the album Imperial Bedroom.
Yeah, they were. I think he's new wave.
Yeah. Echo and the Bunnymen, Ocean Rain.
Sure.
What
Good
else we
band,
got here?
actually.
Duran Duran, self-titled, Duran Duran.
Yep.
Depeche Mode, Music for the Masses.
Good musicians.
Tears for Fears, The Hurting.
Yeah, they're
Didn't
we're
they
talking.
just release a new album?
Yeah, I was going to say they've come back.
Are they brothers?
No.
Okay.
They're old like school buddies, but no,
Okay.
very different guys.
The Fix,
Yeah.
with their album Reach the Beach. Television, Marquee Moon. Squeeze.
Well, that's a classic.
Is it? Okay.
Tamaraki Moo's a classic.
Squeeze. Ikrazi. East Side Story. Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams.
That's a classic.
Devo, Freedom of Choice.
Yep.
David Bowie, I don't know if he's really... Well, he could have crossed...
He's
No,
not.
he crossed pretty much.
He
every
was
genre.
there, but I would say he's a rocker.
Yeah. ABC. Okay.
Yeah, they had one great album.
The Lexicon of Love.
Yeah, it was a good album.
Oingo Boingo.
Yeah, they were around forever, I thought.
Your buddy Roxy Music here.
New wave? I guess so. I put them with New Romantics.
Well, it's the song, the album
Avalon.
Michael Jackson's father, Joe Jackson, did
Yeah.
the looks.
It
It's not him, is it?
But it's not like an uncommon.
Is it
name.
him?
Yeah, it's still.
That Joe Jackson?
No, it's not. It's this little skinny British guy.
Okay.
And that's a good album.
Ecstasy, Drums and Wires.
What else you got?
New Order, Power, Corruption, and Lies.
That's like almost a
Go-Go's, Beauty and the Beat, and they're being inducted. Go figure that one out. The Police, Synchronicity.
Huge album.
B-52s, self-titled B-52s.
Yeah.
By the way, trivia. Fred Schneider.
Right, B-52s.
Yeah, lead singer is the first cousin of Dee Schneider from Twisted Sister.
I thought you were going to say Rob Schneider.
No, it's not spelled the same.
And they all make Schneider meat, too.
I'm gonna mention your buddy again, Elvis Costello, with "My Aim Is True." That's 2 albums we just mentioned.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, here's another one, Elvis Costello, "This Year's Model,"
Gosh, I can help myself. Yeah.
and that's Ian's like, "Can you name me 3 albums we just did?" Human League.
No, you,
Dare.
Don't you want me, baby?
Then we got the Police again with Zenyatta Mondatta.
yeah, because they did stuff like that.
The Cars.
Oh,
Duran Duran Rio. Blondie Parallel Lines.
great album,
And then
actually.
the final 2, the Pretenders with Pretenders. And Talking Heads with Remain in Light.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the
I wouldn't
number
have listed. Oh, number 1? Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have chosen that as the number
No,
1
me neither.
Talking Heads, but okay.
I would have put Eurythmics a lot higher. Than
Yeah.
I would have put like Eurythmics or maybe Duran Duran. Maybe throw in
There's
XS
always been a
album in it.
problem with Duran Duran and the critics because they're a little bit of a boy band. They played that up. But hey, the Beatles were a boy band, so what?
They were a boy band until Paul McCartney took over. As lead
Yeah, I
singer.
guess so. But that the times changed. They got rid of their character and suits.
Was it though Brian Epstein's death that really changed it?
Yes, because they weren't managed by an adult anymore. They were just a bunch of
Sign of the times too, that
yeah.
way.
Because he was very mature, kind of.
Good. He was. Yeah. Anyway, I'll talk about him someday. He made a lot of mistakes. He cost them billions. Anyway, that's Brian Epstein.
You got a review hanging around there?
Oh, hello.
The music at night, it sounds bright on Wheeler's turntable. He shines a light, he keeps his vinyl in sight, and gives you his magnificent review. Now here's a clue we have for you. It's time for Wheeler's Vinyl Review.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So basically, this is our second week with a contest vinyl.
SeriousRockTalk@gmail.com.
.com.
When you hear the show, say, "Hey, New Wave Show, I want that album."
What album would that be?
Yes, sir. What are you doing now?
So Steve Miller's greatest hits.
Oh, that is so New Wave.
It's the anti-new wave album.
I wanna reach out and grab you.
Can you just, what is it, dance to Jet Airline?
Ooh, jetliner, don't take me too far away.
So basically, it's all the best cuts of Steve Miller's albums.
You know, that might not be too bad.
That's a
No,
very
it's
good
actually
album.
it's actually a really good album.
Yeah, I mean,
from-
he goes back to the 60s. He's from
Exactly.
San Francisco.
That's a Paul Penna.
although
remake,
this
by
one
the
is
way,
more
Jerry.
mostly stuff from 74 to 78.
I was going to say, that's
His better
kinda-
years.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, he had, what, 2 great albums coming
So the Joker, Fly Like an Eagle,
Yeah.
and Book of Dreams.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
like,
he made a career. But
Exactly.
they were pretty good albums. Everybody had them.
well, that's it.
They were unavoidable.
I have that album.
So
you?
The
it's
greatest hits.
it's probably
it's
the
good.
best lineup the band ever had, which is Steve Miller on guitar vocals, David Denny on guitars, Gary Malabar, or
Yeah, Malabar,
I'm
yeah.
not sure. Drums, Lonnie Turner on bass guitar, Byron Alfred on keyboard, and Greg Douglas on slide guitar. You have amazing songs like Jungle Love, which starts with a keyboard slowing down, and then there's a really catchy verse that leads into a chorus. Take the Money and Run.
These are great songs. I mean, they are.
Although Take the Money and Run was never the big hit it should have been. It starts with a really good drum fill. Actually, it's a really great drum piece to my
It's
ear.
a good riff, too.
Exactly.
Has that
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I remember that.
And the solo is basically a chord progression, which, when you think
Really?
about it, is I don't know if it's a middle finger or if it's a show-off
Maybe.
piece.
Yeah, really.
Which ends with a chorus. And of course, the piece everybody knows from this album, which is The Joker. The song is very recognizable and arguably their most famous one.
Was that? Oh, yeah, right, yeah. That's a really interesting song, eh?
Yeah.
Trivia there is he apparently made up a word called pompatus. But in these, there's just like a Carly Simon, You're So Vain type thing. Did he actually make it up? Did he rip it off? An old blues singer. And he's never really come clean on that. But at a point he says something about the pompatus of love. It's not a real word,
Word,
but
no.
it works. You listen to it and think, yeah, okay, I'm going to bump at this.
Makes sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, but you look it up. No.
And if you're a teenager listening to us, it's a really great. The Joker's a really great song for slow dancing. It has
And
a
also,
great bass line,
if
very
you're
relaxed.
if you're an aspiring guitar player, it's 3 chords.
Exactly. Yeah,
Boom,
true.
boom, bum, 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 bum. There's nothing to it.
There's also Fly Like an Eagle, which is another very famous one.
Yeah, Seal did a remake on that one.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. It was for
boy.
Space Jam, I think.
Yeah.
It's very funky, laid back, cool, and lax. Very good use of keyboard, and it does the same routine a couple of times within the song, so
Yeah.
it's not one you want to listen to too often, but every once in a while. So, in the pros, got Steve Miller's genius on the guitar, great bass lines. The background of the songs is really good. The only thing is, if you're a fan of solos, it's not a great album for that. But then again, there's so many great albums with great solos out there.
Oh, so that's your review?
That's my
Thank
review.
you.
All right, 4 out of 5. Well, if you guys want it, seriousrocktalk@gmail.com. Just say New Wave episode. Can I have the album, please? And well, if you're there, and if you're first one and you get it, you get it.
Is it courtesy of anybody to sell? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, it's courtesy of actually Mr. Brent Knox of Crosstown Traffic was kind enough to provide us with this album here.
Where is Crosstown?
It is at in Ottawa, located at 593 C Bank Street, which is actually our office.
Hey, that's where we are. Wait a second.
That's where we are too. So it's kind of nice to just go downstairs, help ourselves, and I mean, he knows that we're giving away stuff, right?
And then he has to give it away because we told people in there.
So that's it.
That's it. sir.
Thank you.
Well, I'm signing off. Au
Who-
revoir.
And who are you?
I'm Kennedy.
And I'm Dr. Ian Clark.
I'm Wheeler.
Good night.
Bye.